Hi everybody, I'm sorry that I can't be with you today. My name is Isabel Galleymore and I'm a lecturer in the Film and Creative Writing Department at the University of Birmingham. I specialise in eco-poetry, or what is often described as environmental poetry, and I both write that myself and also study the work of others, both in a British and American contemporary context. So my book, Significant Other, which I'm going to read a few pieces from today, came out in 2019. It's perhaps an example of eco-poetry. So in this book, I'm thinking about some of these strange sea creatures, but I'm also thinking about a quotation from an environmental philosopher called Donna Haraway, who talks about significant otherness in terms of our relationships with the non-human, so our relationships with animals as well as the world around us. And so whilst many of the poems in this book think about limpets and barnacles, there are several poems that think about the broader challenge or question of climate change. So I'm going to read a few of those. The first one is called By Ourselves. By ourselves. The too hot winter sun, no cloud. I glanced up to find we were finally by ourselves, and had been for a while. Hadn't we desired to be alone those times we flirted with seeing human forms in trees? Some evenings we gave over entirely to making the moon one of us. Still, it felt too fast, this intimacy, the over-hasty buds, the last few bees finishing our sentences, their bright cheeks turning pale. When I was writing this book, I was really interested in the idea of significant others, the idea of a romantic partner, a lover. But I was, of course, very interested in that otherness as well, the otherness that comes from the natural world and from what we're doing to the natural world. So this next poem is a poem that I often describe as my Mills and Boon climate change poem. I became interested in using the tropes associated with love stories, with the kind of narratives that we see in soap operas, and thinking about how some of that might apply to our situation with climate change, in particular, questions and feelings around denial. So the denial of a lover who has perhaps been cheated against, and the denial that we have involved with climate change denial. Day. Having lived this long with one another, we know day's face, day's hands so very well, the way it touches and likes to be touched, can, in the most part, read its mind. So when we hear that day is only playing along, that day has a plan to abandon us, we brush it off as gossip. After all, the orange juice carton pours out orange. Birds gently carry on bird-splaining themselves. Under the trees of our tree-lined streets, a few of us gather, without exception, our talk of the weather still small. I'll just read one more, and this poem starts to think about pathetic fallacy, so this literary device that we often use, or the romantics often used, where the natural world reflects our human emotions. So the sky is crying and the willows are weeping, and starts to think about this in the context of climate change. A friend of mine a few years ago said this incredible thing. She said that we are the weather. And it made me think again about this device of pathetic fallacy and the fact that perhaps we are far more entangled with the weather, with climate change, than we sometimes would like to imagine. No inclination. It came to light that mountains were some of the least despondent land formations, that a surprising number of gales didn't know what it was to howl. The woe-begone voice of the willow confirmed it had no reason to weep. Accordingly, school children were instructed to rip up their books, releasing alligators from their anger, bees from their busyness, cats from their curiosity, while one neighbourhood didn't see any harm pulling the sun closer to inspect. It couldn't be denied that fiery mass possessed no inclination to smile. Household after household poured whiskey cokes to toast the news, the ice melting fast in their drinks. Thank you very much.